Welcome back, friends, to Hubble Life, where we learn to see things through a different lens. We learn to see life through a different lens. What if the fall didn't just happen once? But what if it was something that we experience over and over again in your life? Not as failure, but as a necessary part of becoming. What if the moments that feel like everything is falling apart are actually the moments where life is just beginning? Because see, the story isn't over. In the last episode, we talked about Adam and Eve and how the fall wasn't a mistake. It was a beginning. It was a step down from God, but it was also a step forward toward becoming like Him. And here's why that's personal to each of us. That story didn't end with them. You are living it right now. Not in some distant or symbolic way, but in everyday life. Just like Adam and Eve left the garden, you left a place of peace, of security, somewhere you knew and loved, and you stepped into a world filled with uncertainty, opposition, and growth. And you didn't come here by accident, you came here on purpose. But just like them, you didn't step into ease. You stepped into effort and into challenge. You stepped into a life where things don't always go the way that we expect them to or the way that we planned. In fact, that's one of the things I think God has a sense of humor. You think you have your life planned and He has it planned differently. And sometimes that can feel like everything's gone wrong. But what if it hasn't gone wrong? What if the things that you are struggling with right now, the uncertainty, maybe the pressure, the setbacks that have happened, what if they're not signs that you're off track, but what if they're signs that you're exactly where growth is happening? It's easy for each of us to think, well, when life gets easier, then I'll feel peace. When this happens, then I'm going to feel good. When we get a raise, when my kid isn't sick anymore, or when these things happen, then I'll be okay. Then I'll find peace and life will be good. But what if peace isn't found in the absence of opposition, but it's found in understanding it? Because the fall introduced opposition on purpose, without it, there was no growth. If we had no opposition, we wouldn't grow the way that we need to. There would be no strength, no becoming. In fact, we couldn't even have joy. You were never meant to experience only ease in this life, because without that contrast, joy loses its meaning. You don't recognize light unless you have darkness, and you don't appreciate strength without struggle. And you don't fully feel joy until you've known some pain. And that's not a flaw in the plan. It is the plan. See, we have to know both sides. We have to understand pain in order to know joy. So, if you're in a season where things feel really heavy, it doesn't mean that your life is broken. It might mean that your life is expanding. You're becoming who you were meant to become. In fact, it's happening in my life right now too. I'm feeling a little bit of this in a very real way right now. I'm getting ready to send my daughter on a mission. She's leaving in a month, and there's part of me that would love to just hold on because it's comfortable, it's familiar, it's close, it's easy, we're in that routine. But I also know that stepping away and her stepping away is exactly what will help her to grow. And as much as I'd like to keep her here, I know that as she leaves, she will become something more out there, and she'll learn things that she just would never have learned here. She'll experience things and become the woman that she needs to be, better out there than she ever could by staying in the comfort of our home. And that's what makes this so real. Sometimes growth requires that we step away from what feels safe. I know it's going to be difficult for her too. And we've had some crazy experiences. Our other daughter just got home from Sweden maybe 6 months ago or so. And it's hard to let our kids go. It's hard to let them spread their wings and move away. And yet we know that it can be the best thing for them. Sometimes it feels like it'd be nicer to keep them safe and just right here. But sometimes love looks like letting go. And sometimes the hardest moments are actually the ones that are most meaningful. In fact, one of the greatest gifts that came from the fall was agency. The ability to choose. Your life is being shaped right now. Not by just what's happening to you, but how you choose to respond to it. In your hard moments, you're becoming. In those decisions that you make, you're becoming. In the way that you show up when things aren't easy, you're becoming. You don't become who you were meant to be sitting in comfort. You become who you were meant to be through choice and agency. And this is where grace meets us. Here's where hope comes in. The fall didn't just bring opposition, it made grace necessary. It made the Savior a necessary component of the plan. We needed him because of the fall, which means you were never meant to do this alone. Because of the fall, we needed a Savior. And grace doesn't meet you at the finish line. It meets you right in the middle, right where it's messy, where it's unfinished and there's uncertain things in your life that are happening. Grace meets you in the hardest moments. You are not abandoned. You are supported. You are strengthened and you are seen. You are loved. Even when it feels slow and even when it feels unclear, the path that's ahead, you're still moving forward. So let me ask you something. Where in your life right now does it feel like maybe things are falling apart? And what if actually that's the place where you're becoming? So if you feel like your life isn't going the way that you thought it would, things feel harder than expected, or you found yourself wandering, thinking, maybe, what am I doing wrong? Why is this happening to me? Maybe the answer is nothing. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not failing. You're becoming. And just like Adam and Eve, you stepped out of a place of comfort and into a life where you could grow. You weren't meant to stay in the garden. You weren't meant to stay in the premortal life before you came here. We were meant to be part of the fall. And the fall happens over and over. We keep moving forward, as messy as it is, to try and finish this race of life. The fall didn't just happen in the beginning of our story. It happens in the middle. It happens towards the end. And it means that our story is still unfolding. It's still happening. There's a lot of things that we can learn, but most of those things come when life is a little more difficult. So don't feel like you're alone. You are not. You are loved, you are seen, you are heard, and you're doing good. Life is messy. That's part of the fall. Agency is a blessing. The fall is also a blessing. It gives us opportunity to see both sides, to feel opposites. Have understanding, be believing, and live extraordinary. And I'll see you next time.